Okay,
Hey, I'm Lis, and I'm in London. And I first started working with Dreams with Bill back in 2007. And I was a member of the Taipei and Taichung Dream groups for about 2 years before I left Asia and moved to New York. And then I've continued doing dream work in a few different places, kind of in Finland, a bit in New York, Sweden. And so, yeah, and now I'm part of Bill's Sunday morning online dream group. And I started leading a dream group as well from London with, I think we had 8 people in the last group from 5 different countries. So it's also an international affair.
8 people from 5 different countries. What countries do you have?
So there are 2 from Norway,
Wow.
1 from Hungary, 1 from Taiwan, 2 others who are in London, and then 1 in Paris.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you're in an interesting position because one, you've had so much experience with dreams. You were in the very first dream group in Taipei, weren't you? Were the very first ones?
I think so, yeah, because I
Even
think Lynn arranged it,
Lynn
and
Kornberg,
then
right?
yes, and then it moved to Dick's place.
Yeah, and then it changed. She went away, and it also changed, but you stayed with it. And do you want to say anything about your experience or how that was to be in those groups?
Well, I know it sounds a little bit over the top, but I do kind of feel like in a way it changed the course of my life, in the sense that dream groups are such a special environment, where you can learn to be your true self and show other people your true self. So this morning in our dream group, I shared a dream and I'm still kind of dealing with all of those same things. And I kind of feel like all dream groups boil down to that, showing who you are and being seen, and therefore loving yourself a little bit more deeply than you did before, and kind of trusting yourself and trusting other people a little bit more than you did before. And so when I joined the dream group, I was probably in my mid-20s, just past my mid-20s maybe. And, it was a bit of a tumultuous time in my life. And it was something that I think really helped to ground me at that time. And then also it's just as kind of an intellectual activity, because as a literature student, it's quite fun kind of engaging with the metaphors and thinking in interesting and creative ways, which obviously sets you up well in life for thinking in interesting and creative ways.
So how do you feel leading your own dream group? You want to say anything about that? Because it's not too common that we actually, like I've been interviewing some people who've been doing this for a long time, leading dream groups like Gunnar or Marku, pioneers. But you're sort of a newcomer into the front ranks of this. You started your own dream group, and from what I hear, it's very successful. And do you want to say anything about what other people get from your dream group, what you've gotten, what some of the difficulties are, what some of the rewards are, anything you'd like to say, I think might encourage and inspire people who also want to follow in your footsteps and start up an Ullman dream group, an online dream group now.
So I think it's quite a difficult thing to do in the sense of, for me, it took a lot of courage actually. So I kind of wanted to lead dream groups, but I've had a kind of an idea of leading dream groups for a long time, but I never really felt confident enough, and thought it would be difficult to find people who were interested in it but didn't have their own ideas and kind of having to manage the group and come up with the right questions. So it was difficult to kind of get the confidence to do it. And I don't think I'm out the other side of that yet, because I think we've had maybe 5 groups, and each time we've had more people. And this last group was the first time we had people who'd never done an Ullman Dream group before. So that was a different experience. And, you know, that a couple of them are my friends as well, which is kind of a different kind of vulnerability maybe. So I don't know, at the moment, I still feel like I'm in the phase of being slightly confused and uncertain about the impact on other people and the impact on myself. But I think with more time, I'll begin to kind of get a bit more sure-footed. But my sense is that, because in our dream group at the moment, it's all women, and it feels like a lovely place to be. So for me, I think creating the safe space is probably fine, but I watched your interview with Gunnar the other day, and what he said about the difficult part being feeling under pressure to come up with questions, or the right questions to lead the dreamer. Sometimes that feels a bit tricky.
It's challenging. The challenge is all the time in new ways, and it's how we grow, you know. But I remember I asked you about leading a group, I was quite a few years back, and you said something, you responded, this was in an email or something. You said that you don't have a degree in psychology, and so you wouldn't be qualified in England to do something like this.
Well, I think that British society is not as open to like personal development as maybe American society is. And,
how nicely you put that.
I'm sure you've experienced a similar thing in Taiwan, maybe. I mean, the West generally is kind of dominated by the scientific approach at the moment. I know that your new book that's just been released this weekend, deals with this idea. And so there was something about, I felt very shy to kind of come out as someone that did something slightly alternative. And I think in British society, if you and maybe this is true everywhere, and maybe it's just a human nature thing, that we have something to prove ourselves, we can feel a bit more confident about something. And so it just felt a little bit like, why would anybody come to a dream group with someone who has no qualifications and nothing to prove that they've got anything to offer? But I think you always said to me, well, find people that you already know. And that's basically the way it ended up happening. And I think through that I can build confidence, and then maybe feel able to open it up to people that I don't know and that I haven't specifically invited, because I feel safe inviting them.
Can you say anything about your qualifications now? Do you feel qualified?
Well, I feel like I have more life experience now than maybe I did, than I did when I was younger. So, but I feel kind of within myself, more certain in myself, and I trust myself to be able to handle situations kind of with, grace, and like not hurting people and not upsetting people, and kind of maybe I've also had problems in my life kind of confronting people or holding people accountable. And there's obviously, in a dream group, you don't want to confront people, but if someone goes off and is doing the wrong thing, in the sense of maybe asking a leading question or veering off process, it's the leader's job to say something. And I trust myself to be able to say that in a kind and confident way, more than maybe I did before. So I was maybe a bit nervous of the responsibility involved in leading a group.
Well, you definitely have everything it takes to be an excellent leader. And Montague Ullman, I don't have the words with me right now, but he said that the qualities that really determine a leader have nothing to do with degrees or any of that. It has to do with the things you have, or everything you have. Those are the qualities. And so, and also, this is not psychotherapy. That's the thing. This is healing. He said it's healing. It's not psychotherapy. We're not psychotherapists, you know. Also, he said that he has seen, I think Gunnar also repeated this, but Montague Ullman said it very forcefully, that he has seen more quick changes in people in his dream groups than he saw in the patients he was being a psychiatrist toward.
Well, it's like what Jasmine said in the dream group this morning, that like every dream is a whole book. And, you know, you could just read the last chapter of your life in your book, or a little bit like what I did today. We went all the way back to chapter 1 and everything kind of comes out. So depending on how many layers you unpeel through your dream, you kind of tell a more complete story. But in therapy sessions, maybe it takes longer to get to all of the different chapters. There's something very special about the group as well, because a few years ago I was a participant in a dream research study at a university in London, and he used a different process, and it was a really great process, but I can't remember the name of it, but the idea is that it goes one step further than the Ullman group in removing other people's opinions completely, so as not to kind of influence the ideas that the dreamer has. But apart from the fact that I think ideas that other people have can be useful in kind of holding up a mirror or making you have a reaction that makes you intuitively know things or understand things, there's also something for me, since I've rejoined the group online, the thing that keeps coming up for me is how important it is for other people to witness the process. And like Peter said today about being an honoured witness to the process of going through it. And for me, I feel like that's so important, because it's a dance going through life, kind of showing yourself, being accepted, kind of dipping your toe in the water and then going up to your knees. And so I think the process of interacting with other people in the group is one of the really special things that makes the dream group work so fast.
It is really true. I mean, there are a few places in our modern society where people can come together and open up and show their truthful inner heart. And even if they feel that there's something inside this ugly or twisted, you know what I mean? Then when they bring it out and show it, and other people don't think it's ugly and twisted, you know, that makes a big difference. So to have those honored witness, Peter's good with those. Peter's good with words.
Yeah, he is. And no, I can't remember what I was going to say.
I think this business of the orchestration at the end, where other people give their opinion, I've had people say, oh, that shouldn't be in the process. But I think it's important, because I think it enables the dreamer to know that she's been heard.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And that's what I was going to say. I have a suspicion that there are a lot of people that go through their whole life without having experienced that ability, that opportunity to show themselves so deeply in a place where they feel like they're able to, which is a real shame, because it means they're not going to have lived their life as fully as they could have. It's this idea of if you're not willing to show yourself completely, you'll never get to experience that someone loves you for exactly who you are. But that's such a difficult thing to do. And I feel like the dream group kind of teaches you to do that through the building of the trust through the group.
Enables you to do that, you know. It's interesting.
And it's also, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say also that what you just said about the dream group is that other people get to show that they've seen you and heard you. In your interview with Gunnar, you were mentioning about how you have taken yourself out of the process a bit more and you don't do such big orchestrations anymore. Because it's interesting, because and I don't know if this is an ego thing, but for me, my memories of you doing orchestrations is that it was really important to me, because if someone does do a good orchestration, they are showing that they've seen you, and that's a really powerful thing. But you're not saying that the orchestration isn't important. I think you were just saying that you don't always have to be the one who does the orchestration.
Well, it's more than that. I do think it's very important. I really do. And Montague Ullman, see, he invented the process, and he kept developing. I was with him maybe 20 some years, and he kept developing over that time. And he developed the playback and the orchestration, all these things. And I remember when the orchestration first came in, the idea was, well, not everybody can do this. I can do it. Monte would say, he could do it. So he would say, would anybody like to do an orchestration? Then he would give his. Everybody was too afraid to do it. But over time, more and more people came forth. And it's not that I don't believe in it. I think that as we grow older, I think our brain cells die or something, and we're simply not as able to do it. And you do a very wonderful orchestration. You really do, sort of like what I used to do. You sort of hit the nail on the head. You give a picture of the thing. And I think that is, I think you're 100% right. I think that is so important for the dreamer. So terribly important. It's not a thing that we want to eliminate or anything or be ashamed of, And I think a dreamer, one time I was giving an orchestration in Monte's group, and it was someone that I brought up there. I invited all my people up to Monte's group. So we were in a group up at his house, but all the people there were from my group in New York. And this one woman gave a dream, and I was giving an orchestration, and Monte cut me off, and he turned to her and he said, "You don't have to put up with this, And she said, "I'm really touched for what Bill is doing." And Montague Ullman was a little bit uncomfortable with long, detailed orchestrations like you gave several times recently. I don't feel that. I feel grateful, because even though I don't have the ability anymore to do it, I really appreciate when someone does, And I think it's an important part. It means you've taken the dream in and you're giving the output. I think that's so beautiful. And all you're saying to the dreamer is what you've heard the dreamer say herself, So, is there anything else we missed? Have we missed anything? Did you make any notes?
I didn't. I've come completely unprepared.
I just jotted down a few things. Okay, here's something. Like someone responded to your dream, just the dream we did just now, saying something to the effect that you had taught them something. And I feel this is a really important part of the process, because in therapy, you come in as a dreamer, is a Dr. Stimson, I will help you out. Well, in the Ullman Dream Group, that's bullshit. It's the dreamer who helps the rest of us out, And so many things that you said, and even things that other people said, like Hannah from Korea, something she said just touched me, because it echoed something that I've been through and felt, and I never expressed it, and she expressed it. And when she expressed it, she was expressing it for me too, not just for her. You want to say anything about that?
I feel like that element of it relates to, I feel like the dream group has a big relationship going on between like the ego and the authentic self, or dreams create this, that the authentic self always shows itself in the dream. So there's something for me in the way that every time you work with someone else's dream, I find it to be a really humbling experience, to be allowed in so intimately into someone's world for such a long period of time as well. It's not kind of a quick process. We kind of go in and we stay there and we inhabit someone else's life and and their feelings for a while. And so I actually find that something that encourages me to not act out my ego in kind of my real, in like practicing being a genuine person. I suppose the dream groups allows you to practice being genuine, because I always feel very humbled by the experience of working with other people's dreams.
Well, Lisa, everything you're saying here makes me so grateful that I asked you to give this interview, because it's so true what you say about the dream. The dream does come from the authentic self. It's the real self. It's not that the ego is inauthentic, but it's full of its own ideas. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, the dream takes in things that we saw marginally here and there, and it puts them together, and it finds a new reality that it tries to express. Of course, people don't listen because it's in metaphor. It doesn't make sense, you know. So, and we're there, and the dreamer shows her authentic self, and it brings out our authentic self. There's this magic that happens. It's a place where the authentic self can come out and shine. And there are not a lot of places like that in society.
It's difficult. But the more you practice it, the better you get at it, and then it becomes more and more part of how you exist in the world, I think.
And that's the important thing.
Yeah.
It gets carried out into the world, you know. Wow, that's very, very beautiful. You know, another thing about you that's good is you're very verbal. You know, no wonder that you're not a writer, because you're very verbal and you express things beautifully, things that other people can't quite arrive at an expression for. You come out and do it. So you're so valuable. Yeah.
Growing up, you know, I loved reading and I love books, and, you know, maybe thought that I'd like to write a novel one day, but I find the process of writing very painful, and the process of being present with people the easiest thing in the world. So it's probably, I've chosen the path of least resistance, maybe.
You know, I was called upon to do a TED Talk some years back, and I labored to figure the damn thing out, and I couldn't. What are my ideas? What are my ideas? And then something happened where I was just talking, and all the ideas came out. Do you know what I mean? So what you say is true, and we're just free, and we don't have to organize. It just comes out. It comes out so beautiful, so much more beautiful than we could ever say it ourselves.
Exactly. And so I was pleased to hear that we'd be doing this in conversation rather than just having to make a video by myself, because I would have found that so much harder. Which, you know, that says something also about working with other people in a dream group rather than just working with yourself on your dreams. It brings things forth that maybe otherwise wouldn't have come.
Well, I agree with you. It's 1 + 1 = more than 2. You know what I mean? Much, much, much more. And I've made several videos where the people had already prepared text and they read the text and everything. But Gunner's video was the first one that was special in the sense that it was really spontaneous. He asked me to jot down some ideas, so I jotted down a few ideas like I did for you, but they're disorganized, just ideas that I jotted down. And basically we went in and just freelanced it. We just freestyled it like jazz, you know. And that's what we're doing here. And I think things come out that wouldn't come out otherwise, because they come out of nowhere. And when we organize all our thoughts, we don't give any space for nowhere.
Well, also kind of relating to your TED Talk, this idea of doing a talk like that, you might want to prepare what you want to say, but the art is looking like it's the very first time you've thought about any of these things when you're actually giving the speech, which I think is much harder to do than just actually being genuine in the moment as a response.
All this is a complicated thing. Let me see if I might. Do you have any questions about leading a group? What stage of the process do you find the most challenging?
The context and the playback, in the sense of finding the right questions to get to the point. So I find that when I'm participating in your dream group, for example, I'm better able to build up a full picture because I'm putting together everyone's ideas a little bit more. Whereas I think when you're leading the group, you've got half a mind on also leading the process. So in some ways, maybe I'm not following the dream quite as well as I would if I were participating only without leading. And so sometimes I feel when I'm participating, I feel generally, I feel quite confident that I'm grasping the important bits and know the bits that need following. But when I'm leading a group, I feel a little less confident that I'm doing that. So it can make me feel a bit vulnerable. But I don't know whether that will come with time or whether that's just like Gunnar mentioned that he is an experience that he's had and he kind of felt a bit of pressure to really get to the bottom of the dream. So I don't know whether do you, with experience, do you feel more confident and have trust in yourself that it will work?
But you know, it really doesn't depend on me that much. It depends on the dreamer. Like today's dream that you did, I mean, you really did all of our work for us, you know? And with a good dreamer, and the leader just follows the dreamer. I don't consider myself that gifted. Now, when I was younger, I thought I was very gifted with dreams. I mean, when I don't know if anybody can be gifted with dreams. I think you're gifted. You're gifted in your ability to be in the group and participate in a way that really helps the dreamer. And you verbalize with the orchestration so beautifully. I think you'll have a stellar career as a dream group leader. That's what I feel.
And so what do you do when the dreamer isn't getting it? How do you cope with that?
Well, probably each case is different. Like when we did Peter's dream a week or two ago in our group, I felt he got it right away, and he told us what he got. He said, this dream is about, I think he said, intimacy and love and relationship. So he got it. He pulled that a rabbit out of the hat right away. But from there, he didn't go forward. And that's what Lisa called me up and said, you usually ask questions, but you didn't. I didn't, Monte's word was invited. I didn't feel invited to go forward, you know. Sometimes we can't do anything. But Peter was stellar today, you know. He was really stellar. He's really special edition. We really have good people. There are things you can do, you know. It's for example, I had sometimes when you're doing the context, you said you had trouble with context sometimes. Doing the context, the dream will go on and on and on and on. And when I first started it, the context would take me an hour sometimes, maybe an hour and a half, you know. I want to get all the information so we can do the dream. But that's baloney, you know. The context can be very quick, but you've got to, like you say, you've got to get to the point. And
yes, one thing I've noticed is that the context phases recently have been much shorter in your groups.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big difference to when I was in your groups in Taiwan before.
That's called learning. They don't need to be that long, you know. We don't need to know so much. Just because what we do is just get an inkling. There's something there. The dreamer knows, you know. That inkling. I do that when I write because I'm a writer. I'll get up in the morning and I'll get an inkling and I'll go to my pad of paper and I'll start writing. I don't know what in the hell I'm going to write. I don't know what I'm going to write about, and it all comes out. It all comes out. Then I realize this is it. I put it aside. I get up. I make some coffee. I come to my computer, and then I start. Now I know what I'm writing about, and so that inkling comes before you know. You don't have to know. You know what I mean? You just have to know that there's something there to know.
So it's kind of related to what you were saying earlier about, or maybe it was in the conversation you had with Gunnar about, it's not about what you are able to see in the dream that other people can't see. And it's just about trusting that the process is working for the dreamer and not worrying too much about whether we can see it.
Gunnar said that, not me. Yes, it's true. Gunnar would say that, you know. And today we trusted to the process. And I think, I mean, I couldn't put in words so easily what was achieved, but I really think it was something special. It gave me an understanding. You transform me. By working with your dream, you transform me. That's the beauty of this process of being a dream group leader, is we continue to transform all through our life. Each group you lead each week, it transforms you. Sometimes even if you don't get to the meaning of the dream, still it transforms you. Did I leave out anything? You've been involved with dreams now, like you said, how many years? 13 years or so? And you say it's changed you as a person? You want to say more about that? Or maybe you already said it.
Well, in the dream that I shared this morning, we talked about how, I can't remember the quote exactly that you said, about your wounds are where, what's that quote? The wounds are the parts that are touched by...
Oh, wounds, yes, yes. Our wounds are the parts where parts of us where the gods have touched us.
And so I feel like the dream group has helped me heal those parts of myself a little bit more and accept those parts of myself more, which is definitely, I mean, not everybody who's wounded gets to turn it into a positive. It can go a very different way, and people can end up miserable and unhappy or even dead. And I feel like the dream group has helped me turn those difficult, hurt parts of myself into a positive, and I've ended up I think I'm really quite a happy person because I've been able to do that.
It's shocking, isn't it, to realize that?
Because I'm a happy person, and I also have empathy because I know what it is to have unhappiness and to have had difficult things happen. I do feel like that means I've got a lot more to offer other people, and I can kind of touch people in different ways because I've had those experiences, and I think the dream group has been a really important part of that journey.
I think you're also a deep person. You know, you can't say that of everybody, but it's true for you, very much so. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close off?
Nope.
I'm really glad we talked, and I hope we'll talk again. And next time I'll try to make better notes so it's more organized, okay? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for everything.
Wait, do you want to say anything about your dream group? Maybe other people might want to join. You want to say when it is, what it is? Or?
Well, we haven't got a fixed time. We do it every other week. I suppose it would, if anyone was interested in joining, they'd have to contact me.
Okay, we'll figure that. They'll figure out a way to get through to you. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe,
and, initially there weren't, there was just a handful of us, so we would just arrange it around when it suited all of the people. But now we've got a few more people. We might need to think about the logistics a little bit more. So as and when we have a fixed time and everything's a bit more formalized, maybe.
A fixed time is important. Fixed time, if it's hard to get a fixed time, it's good for everybody. But in a dream group, you have two dream groups. One is you have the extended dream group, and then you have the actual dream group that's coming. And not all of the people come any given time, but over time, they come. And so you...
Yeah, it'd be easier to manage if it were a fixed time. So these are new things that are emerging.
Yeah. Okay, well, good luck. And this is until next time, okay?
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.